I wanted to, it's been a while, so let's go over the performance of the portfolio that's focused on 2 to 4 weeks. And before I get into the actual numbers, as we go into this week, the week of the 20th of April, it's the markets are not totally there yet. I know we've overcome quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, and we've made a tremendous comeback to above what we were actually before the uh, this war broke out with Iran. And but the future still looks a little cloudy. I think it's more on the positive side than the negative side. And I'm looking at a whole bunch of different things, and I'm still seeing some divergence, between certain characteristics of what I expect from the market and some other ones that are showing me that there's still some negativity versus full positivity. But again, in general, it's the tilt is more towards the positive side. I think, like I said, but there is still some angst in the market, which hopefully will work its way out over the next week or so. Um, but in general, if you look at the economy, if you look at rates, if you look at the currency exchange rates, the activity all looks good. I don't see anything horrible. But again, there is still some skepticism out there, and we'll see. I mean, we'll just have to see. I think, like I said, on the holistic side, it's more positive than negative. But there's still some stuff that I think we need to work through. As for the results, from 316 to 420, which is basically it's been a month. Um, the return of if you look at the cumulative return over the last 12 months, it's 44%, 44.67% for the portfolio, while the S&P 500 did 42.03. And keep in mind that the numbers look very high because this is actually showing what the results were starting right after the last year when we had that huge drop because of the tariffs. And then a couple of weeks later, it began rising rather quickly. And so that's looking at it from that period right after the downfall from the tariffs and then that increase, that beginning of the increase. And so the results over the 12-month period are quite large, as you can see. And there isn't much of a difference between my portfolio versus the S&P 500. And that's because it's just the changes or the cumulative returns are just so great, ever since the downdraft from the tariffs. Um, and as far as for this year so far, if you look at the results, it's 7.2 for the portfolio versus 4.61 for the S&P 500. And again, the goal is to be I even say 2 to 3 times. I mean, ultimately, it should be around 2 times, hopefully. And on average, that's where it's going to be at. 3 times would be spectacular, but that's quite hard. But again, that's where we are right now. Again, and we'll keep doing this, like I've said, every 2 weeks and 3 and 4 weeks. And then for the portfolio as to what the allocation should be for the upcoming 2 to 4 weeks, let me just go to that. So these are the my choices, again, based on um, some quite a bit of analysis actually. Looking at it short term, long term. But again, this portfolio right here, even though I'm looking at some long term, uh, market data, economic data, the goal is to really try to predict what's going to happen over the next 2 to 4 weeks, and focusing on the individual securities that show the greatest potential over the next 2 to 4 weeks. And the ones that I have right now are the ones that you see. Again, it's a straight out allocation where every one of these securities uh, gets an equal percentage of the overall allocations. Um, and again, it's a total of 16 securities. Take a snapshot. It's also on the website, Correa Investment Solutions. So if you don't quite get this, a snapshot of this, it's also on the site. And that's that. And then again, we'll do this again. I do have some other sessions coming up for this week on some more information on fundamental analysis, on technical indicators, and even some on the actual models that I use, at least one of the models, and then we'll talk about the other ones later on also.